Yo, I didn't even have a title for this video. You know what I love about this time of, exposure necessarily, is that it presents opportunity for us to be firmed up in what we believe and to tell what we believe. I was on, I don't know how to say her name, but I was on Audra's comment the other day. I was on her live, because she did a live after we conversed or whatever. It wasn't about me. It was just about the whole situation, having homosexual friends, all that stuff. And it was real good. And if it's still up, I'm going to repost it on my Insta story. And if it's somewhere floating around on Facebook, I will as well. I come on here because, I posted it in the comments, her status, and I shared it too because I don't feel slighted or anything. Me and Sinatra, we real and raw. If y'all didn't know that by now, y'all gonna learn. But, we are real and raw about ourselves. And that's just the case about what it is. We're not scared to tell the truth about ourselves. If what we went through, what we go through currently, we're not scared to tell the truth about ourselves because we don't have a need to protect ourselves against y'all. For what? We're accepted in the beloved. We're accepted in God. So I don't feel slighted at all by her status or anything at all. And I understand that she was trying to prove a point, basically as far as with this whole Daryl Wall situation going on and just other situations that happened in the past as well. I understand her point as far as trying to really paint the picture of, hey, this is the case. Man, I should have tagged her in this. That sucks. I'll have to do it afterwards. So that other people can see it. So I get the point. So maybe the thoughts will come as I just read. All right, so I'm going to read it for everybody. Man, let me tell you something. This is Sinatra. I put it in the comments, and I'm just going to read it. Man, let me tell y'all something for real. When Emerson and I were dating, we were hunching. It's no surprise at all. Nah, we weren't having intercourse, but we were dry humping, making out, and he was most definitely sucking the life out of my breast. Yep. To add to our already sinful living, we were lying about it, telling people we weren't having sex, but of course, the real one saw right through that. Did I stop him knowing God was present with me? No. Did I stop him because I knew there was a standard for holiness as a believer? No. Did I stop him because I knew we both had to minister in worship that weekend? No. Did he stop me from putting hickies on his neck when I should have been at home? Was I reminded by him of a standard then? No. Did we continue to fool around until we were married? Yes. We're sitting in ministry. I guess we were sitting in ministry while we live sinful and deceitful and hypocritical lives. Were we sitting in ministry while we lived in sinful, deceitful, hypocritical lives? Yes. Here's my point. All right, so here she gets to the point. It's not that it's okay to sin, but I'm not going to yell in someone's ear with a megaphone, there is a standard, when I didn't live up to the standard myself. It took a very long time for me to treasure holiness, and I'm not talking about the kind where I only do right when somebody is looking. It took me a while to not only honor and respect the presence of God, but to need it more than my next breath. It took me a while to realize that sin separated me from God. It took me coming to a different place in my walk with God to realize that upholding the standard was more important to me than pleasing myself or man. I won't get to this place and forget how I disobeyed knowing what was right. Neither will I give someone a hard time about holding up a standard I couldn't even hold myself. I will. All right, so I guess I could pause, so I won't have to go back. Hold up a standard that I couldn't uphold myself. Galatians talks about that. I forget where exactly in Galatians, and if y'all are, watching this now or later, and y'all know where in Galatians, or maybe I'll post it myself, where it talks about upholding the standard, you can put it there. But basically, the setting was, I think this was after Paul withstood Peter to the face because Peter was eating, baking with the Gentiles, and then when the Pharisees or the religious elite from Jerusalem came, he kind of switched sides and was like, no, y'all got to be circumcised and you can't eat meat. And he was really hypocritical. He was just like, eating meat with them, oh, it's good, with the grace of God. And then when they came, oh no, I can't eat this meat and everything. And basically, in a nutshell, Paul was just like, why are you putting heavy burdens that you can't even carry on the Gentile, which is a non-Jew? Why are you putting heavy burdens on them to do stuff in their flesh, which you can't even abide by in your own flesh? Like, why are you doing that? If you're going to be saved by the grace of God, then be saved by the grace of God. If you're going to be saved by the gospel of God, be saved by the gospel of God and trust in that. So when she said about neither will I give someone a hard time for holding up a standard that I couldn't even hold up myself, that made me think about that. And I don't know, obviously, every time I guess I come across in a certain way, it's always gospel for me. It's always been gospel for me, whether I'm talking to leadership, whether I'm talking to the believer. The standard that we hold up is not the standard of doing everything right. The standard that we hold up is to trust in the gospel of God, because that's the only thing that can make us, and that has made us, perfect. It's not to say that we are perfect and that it's on us to do everything right. That's never been my MO. That's never been my intention to get across that. But I will stand flat-footed, 10 toes down, that we got to be about the gospel that we preach about. And that doesn't equate to doing good works. That equates to having hope and trust in God. That equates to putting weight and value where it needs to be, so that if our hope and value is where it needs to be, of course we're going to be naturally doing things according to the will of God and being held accountable to God and doing good things. Because of our works? No, not because of our works, but because we value God enough and we esteem him enough and his gospel, and we understand that there's a real Savior that died on the cross for our sins. We're totally about seeing Christ the way that we need to see him, to where we're not doing certain things solely on the fact that we see God for who he is. And it's not about standing on the highest horse. I've never made it about standing on a high horse. Do I have places in my life that are imperfect? Heck yes. But I don't get out on Facebook saying, oh, you need to be a better father. Oh, you need to be a better husband to your wives' husbands. I've never came on and categorically picked out certain things and said, you need to be better here, because I know I can't talk from that measure. And even if I could, would I? No, that's not cool either. I always talk from a standpoint of the gospel. I never tell nobody to do nothing that I don't do. Pursue God. And if you're not pursuing God, that means that you don't understand that he pursued you. It's all about gospel for me. It's just all about gospel for me. So I won't get to this place where I forget how I disobeyed knowing what was right. Neither will I give someone a hard time about holding up a standard I couldn't even hold up myself. I already talked about that. I will, however, use my influence to encourage, to pray that they come into a knowledge of the Holy One. Good. And I'm in agreement with that. And Paul prayed in Ephesians 1, I believe, that the eyes of the understanding may be open. That they crave righteous, living in honor the word with their life, to continue to lead them to the example of Christ, to be a model of the gospel. We are all born into sin, prone to sin, at any moment capable of fulfilling the lust of the flesh. We need God. No one is better than anyone else, and it should be uncomfortable to sit in self-righteousness. So pause right there. We all need God. No one is better than anyone, and it should be uncomfortable to sit in self-righteousness. Absolutely. And the thing about it is because I'm not sitting in self-righteousness, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm not sitting in self-righteousness telling people that we need to focus on the gospel. I'm not sitting in self-righteousness telling the church that there shouldn't be gays ministering in ministry positions, because I've also said that there shouldn't be heterosexuals sitting in certain positions as well. I told my story yesterday as well, and I told that I got sat down for that behavior. So no, it's not just about the gays and homosexuals. It's about anybody that's willfully and openly sinning. You should not be in ministry. Now, the truth about the matter is that with some things, it's just honestly easier to see. And so they get the knife quicker than most would. And there's some people in ministry that never get the knife. There's only a select few pastors that have actually said, yo, man, I'm dealing with pride. I need to sit down for a season and take a sabbatical. But what you see is that's not necessarily the case with a lot of pastors now in these days. It's not. To be honest with yourself and say, yo, man, I'm getting full of myself. I need to sit down and just, take a chill pill. You don't see pastors talking about that. You don't see pastors talking about that. What you see is them making excuses for their sin and then calling out homosexuals because it's an overt sin. And that's wrong. You can't call out somebody that has an obvious overt sin that, yes, you should handle, because there shouldn't be people in the forefront that have a noticeable sin. Even in the Bible, if you were blemished, if you had any type of ailment or whatever the case may be, I'm sorry for this background noise, y'all. They out here cleaning in the rain. If you had any type of illness, if you were imperfect, had any type of ailment, had any type of blemish, you couldn't serve in ministry. You couldn't even be in the temple because you were impure. So what makes it different now that we in this ministry, we just let anybody, because of grace, we just let anybody come and minister before us and bleed before the congregation because of grace? No. So yeah, I did call on the carpet the church, because we shouldn't be letting people minister in a capacity if they're not there. And it's really tricky because on one hand, I gotta go. It's really tricky because on one hand, there's the fact that, some people's stuff is more pronounced than others. But then, like I said, a pastor that is full of pride, you in just as much sin as a homosexual. But it's more acceptable and it's more hidden for that to be the case. For that, you have to be more mature. And you have to actually govern yourself and be accountable to self, really, because who else is going to tell you? You got a bunch of yes men around you, and there may be some bold people that say, hey, you got pride, you need to sit down. But at the end of the day, if you're a senior leadership and you're dealing with certain things, unless it's like a gross sin, like a sexual sin, like you got caught in the bed with somebody else, ain't nobody going to check you. And the thing about God checking you as a leader is, God is always speaking to leadership. The problem is that leadership isn't always listening. The problem is, at the end of the day, it don't matter how much God is speaking. God can speak until he's blue in the face. At the end of the day, you have a responsibility to obey or not to obey. Nobody knows what God is dealing with you about. And pastors ain't going to be honest about what God is dealing with them about. They're not. They're not going to be honest about what God is dealing with them about. It's all about the status quo. It's all about looking good before the people. It's all about being perfect, which is not what the gospel of Jesus Christ is about. But anyways, we shouldn't be so consumed with our own introspection that we don't have time to be examining anyone's lives. So the last thing I will say is this: when Jesus told about, remove the mote out of your eye so that you can remove the beam in the other person's eye, he never was against us helping the other person get what's out of their eye. The essence was check yourself first, but he never said, oh, just check yourself and never check nobody else. He never said that. He said, do some introspection, and then you'll be more apt and you'll be more perfectly ready. You'll be more perfectly ready to judge the situation. So enough. To hell with this non-judgment culture. No. To hell with non-judgment. Judge yourself, so that then you can judge the situation the right way. But we can't just say, oh, it's okay, and not uphold a standard. We can't. There is a standard that we have to uphold, and it's the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm going to go. I said a lot, and these jokers over here, man, they ministers of Satan right now. But yeah, that's it.